And so let's see, are we ready for some of our film footage? Okay, we are. So let's take a look at a few of the comments from that forum.
It is a concern of mine is letting staff, I know they don't do this just out of the goodness of their heart, that they are paid. And I don't think that's the best use of our money in these times, especially in that if we want this kind of information, it should be presented in a different form, perhaps at City Hall. You could do it on another day, and anyone that's interested could come to City Hall and get the information. But I think the intent of the Citizens Forum is just that. It's the citizens' opportunity to share information and ask questions and not have an in-service type of deal going on. One might, and I'm sure this is not the intent, is to fill up time so people can't express their concerns.
My name is Mark.
Oh, and there you go. There's
Right.
Mark Bradley right here. And but this brings up a really good point in that one of the issues I think that a lot of citizens were concerned about is that the Citizens Forum was not being telecast by the city so that other citizens throughout the city could hear these presentations. And these presentations, of course, were basically took a different department each month and had them give a presentation, which basically sucked up almost the whole 2 hours. And occasionally citizens would have questions about the presentation, but if you had a concern about something that was happening in your neighborhood, well, by the time they got to the end of the presentation, there was no time for you to bring up your concern.
And as you can see there, I was at that one, and my situation there was I was trying to bring up the issue that they aren't documenting anything either. And there's a lot of good ideas that are being brought up, but they're brought up again and again and again. And I'm not saying it's boring, but it's the idea that these are good ideas that should have been actually acted upon. Mm-hmm. And how can they even be investigated if there's nobody to record them? So I'd ask them if they could just get somebody to come in and actually record the ideas and bring them to the city council meetings. Well, they don't even act on the suggestions that are at the city council. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like saying, we will allow you to come in and yell and scream, but we're not going to pay attention to you, and we're not documenting it, so we're not going to know what you talked about anyway, because it's our council, not your council. And if you want to spend $100,000 on a house in our city, it's still our city, not your city.
Well, this idea that you have that these issues that citizens bring up at the forum, that they should be documented somewhere, I think is especially important, especially if they're going to be doing a round robin of who is going to be hosting the forum every month, because it's not consistently one elected person. You have no assurance that that elected person has communicated what the issues are with the city the city manager comes to the meeting, but you're not sure whether or not if the other council members even know what the issues are. Now, of course, they can't be discussing the issues behind the scenes, because that'd be a violation of the open meeting law. But certainly there could be the possibility of saying, well, here's a summary of the discussion points that citizens brought forward or ideas, and then be able to then, of course, then give that at the council presentation part of the council meeting,
right,
so that way citizens can hear that they've been heard, and then the council can at the council meeting say, well, let's delegate exactly who is going to take care of these issues, to either do research or to send it to the city manager to give a report back the next council meeting. Those are all really good proactive ideas.
And the sad part about it is, if you take a look at it, you have the city council in the way it's acting right now saying, we don't really want the public to be involved with it. That's why they moved the time to the end.
The visitor presentations.
Yes, the visitor presentations. where they're kind of ignoring and saying, you aren't important, and it is important what we're doing. But let's understand that if you take care of situations and you answer the people when they have an issue, they won't be back there quite very often. The problem is when people start to feel like they aren't being listened to. We've seen it in Watts, we've seen it in Chicago, we've seen it all across the United States, that people get angry and they start to feel like the city isn't being responsive, and the city has its own agenda, and it has nothing to do with you, and the only way you're ever going to get any type of restitution is if you take some type of martial type action, and that's what we want.
Right, we don't want that, or that they feel that they are compelled to, have to go up in front of the council over and over again because they feel like they're not heard, and that's really a sad situation.
And the worst part about it is if they find that they did have a good issue,
yes,
and it didn't take any response, and they had not had any reaction from the city council, the final end result will be that they will take, if nothing else, litigated action, and we will be seeing big amounts of money taken out of the city when we don't have the money to pay.
Yeah, well, and it could result in that, or it could just simply result in citizens becoming disenfranchised and saying, what does it matter what we have to say because it falls on deaf ears? And then you have these elected officials who say that they want engaged citizenry, that they want community participation, and yet they've done very little to encourage the type of environment that fosters citizen participation and citizen involvement in the public policy creation.
Yeah, I love it when they decide that they want to create a board, and then they take every seat in that board and sit on it themselves.
Oh yes, you're talking about that business or the
economic.
Yeah, the Economic Development Authority. That's right. Exactly. Hey, there are a couple of openings, in that Business Advisory Commission. I have placed my name back into the consideration for that. Both you and I know, had interviewed the first time around, and we were turned down. Weren't even considered, really. We got the interview. But we weren't considered, I don't think, seriously.
I'll have to get in there and make a plea to have my application reviewed again. But as the public's aware, I am still interested in that position.
That's right, and I understand that the interviews are going to be held November 2nd. That's what I've been told. And there's also a few openings open on a few other commissions in Maplewood. So if you're interested in the Police Civil Service Commission, there's an opening. If you're interested in the Human Rights Commission, there's a lot of openings. If you're interested in the Business Advisory Commission, well, let's see here. If Mr. Bradley gets one and I get one, there's still one opening. So there you go. No, there's 3 openings on that, I believe. And somebody told me that there might be an opening also on the Planning Commission, but I'm not sure if that's
I also heard something about the Historical Commission is going to have.
Oh.
Have a couple of openings.
And I think actually this is probably, if we look back in Maplewood's history, a period of time when they've got the most openings that I have ever remembered there being. And of course, I'm not quite sure why there's such a high turnover.
Are they doing the same thing to the commissions that they're doing to the public right now? I have no idea.
I don't know either.
But if they are treating them the same way, maybe that's why all the commissioners are leaving.
That could be. Hard to say. So anyway, now we have, let's see, I think some more film footage here. Yep, I'm getting the thumbs up. Let's go ahead and take our film footage here.
And I'm here, I've got 2 issues. The first issue, kind of echoes what has already been said. I have been saying for a long time that we have to
Oh, so anyway, so let's we kind of went through what Mr. Bradley already said. So let's speed ahead and get another citizens' comments here.
Right.
And because I think hearing Mr. Bradley say it in person is much more effective than listening to a film footage of Mark,
Yeah,
talking
the
about his
only thing that would do is just verify I did say it.
Yes, that's right. Very good. Okay, we got the thumbs up. Let's take a look.
Hearing that on television. And I think the other members of the council that are possibly not doing that should have a talk with the ones that are and make sure it stops. And that's an issue for me.
You had one more
Duly
issue.
noted.
You had said you had a question about who authorized
Oh,
the
that's the
muscular
other
dystrophy.
thing. Who authorized having these many things go on here when we didn't have it before?
No.
You didn't.
Muscular dystrophy, the telethon. You said who authorized Maplewood to double donations
Double their,
when people called in?
yeah, they call in with their, whatever they.
There
was some kind of matching.
Well, what happened, if I may?
Sure, go ahead.
Yes, the Firefighters Association was at MD, and they were volunteering their time on the phones. So when they were volunteering their time, they had the dollar amount
Yeah, and then Maplewood would double their.
of such and such dollars, and then how many phone calls came in within a minute period, then they would double that donation to MD. And so we wanted to know who authorized, specifically the city of Maplewood, to double those monies for MD.
Well, it's completely news to me, and so I also would like to know the answer.
And
to
that
question.
should have been decided
And,
months ahead of time.
Well, it
So
should have
people
been.
You know, it could be, I'm familiar with corporations having matching programs for charitable gifts and stuff like that.
So anyway, well, this is very interesting. Now, this, of course, was an issue that was brought up at the Citizens Forum of September 11th. And that gentleman who was standing there taking a couple notes, well, that's Councilmember John Nephew. And, of course, one of the citizens brought up this issue that they had heard that it sounded like Maplewood was doubling the donations. But on the other hand, if they're putting money into the kitty for this donations, I mean, we're a city. Was that taxpayer money, or was that the employees from their own personal pockets were doubling the money? We never really ever received a clarification on that, and certainly at today's Citizens Forum of October 2nd, we never heard a thing from Mr. Chuck All. Now, you notice Mr. Chuck All, the second city manager, because we have two city managers, he, of course, was at the meeting of September 11th, and, of course, he was taking the notes as well. He was at the meeting today, and he did not give the citizen who was at the meeting, who asked this question, the answer today. And that citizen, by the way, was at today's meeting as well. So I don't know. Who knows what the answer is? But see, this tells us certainly one of the reasons I think why it is good to continue on a monthly basis the Citizens Forum, or if they want to rename it the Mayor's Forum or the Council's Forum. You know, as long as it is an opportunity for citizens to voice their concerns, I guess it doesn't really matter what it's called, just so that the forum is there.
And it's very important for everybody to have a chance to speak up when they need a chance to discuss an issue that's important to them. I think that's one of the problems we have with our government right now, is that a lot of people find that they've almost written everything off because they know that they are so without opportunities and chances to have a change.
Yep, to have a voice, exactly. Now, of course, so here we are. Okay, so we've kind of set this up. This is kind of what the citizens were talking about in September. Well, then, of course, Mr. Nephew, Councilmember Nephew, went back to the council then when he had his council presentations at the last meeting, or the meeting before, rather, and he expressed this concern about, one, maybe there should be, the city should be filming the citizens' forums, because then they could be televising it so all the citizens can see what happened. And two, if there's going to be presentations there, it should be televised, because we're investing all this staff time and money into giving presentations. And then, of course, the issue about, well, should it go back to the old format? Well, the council said, Well, you know, let's think about it a little bit. Let's mull it around a bit, and let's talk about it at a workshop in a week or two. Now, of course, the council did indeed have that workshop, and we've got some film footage from that. Now, it's